I have to pay to print personal stuff at work. So do you, boss. Many years ago, I worked for an organization providing frontline customer service. It was a decent place to work, but our manager had lots of rules. One of the rules was that we could not do any personal printing with the printers at work. If we did, we were expected to pay 50 cents per page for black and white printing and $1 per page for color. I'm not sure who made this rule, but the manager was constantly reminding us. Our desks were not assigned, meaning any day you could be sitting at any desk depending on your assigned task for the day. One day I was interviewing for another job within the organization, but at another location. Prior to the interview, the manager of the other location asked me if I'd mind printing a copy of my resume and bringing it with me as their printers were down for the day. I said no problem and figured I'd print it at work since it was work related. I was sitting at a desk that did not have a printer at it. Closest printer was located between my manager's desk and an employee's desk, so I printed it and stood up to go get it. Before I go to the printer, my manager got there first. My print job went ahead of hers. When she saw what I had printed, she said, "Oh, this looks like to be a personal print job." I explained it wasn't, but she disagreed and said since it had nothing to do with our day-to-day work, I had to pay $2 for 4 black and white pages. I begrudgingly paid up. I asked her what had happened to the money, and she said she always put it in the Christmas party fund. All right. A few weeks later, I was sitting at the desk with the printer at it. It was lunchtime, and everyone except my manager agreed to go to a nearby restaurant for lunch. I had walked out of our building and realized I forgot my wallet, so I quickly ran back in to get it. When I got to my desk, I could hear the printer going. I was curious what was being printed as it was spitting out page after page. I quickly glanced at the pile and saw at least 100 pages printed in color, announcing a Sweet 16 for Trisha, our manager's daughter. It very obviously belonged to my manager. My manager came out of the bathroom a moment later and seemed shocked to see me standing there. I picked up the pile and passed it to her and told her our Christmas party fund was going to be getting a big boost. Said nothing but looked really uncomfortable. A few weeks later, our district manager made his quarterly visit. He talked about the upcoming Christmas party and how excited he was for it. I decided it was time for some petty revenge. I raised my hand and said, "Just wondering how much we've accumulated this year for the Christmas party from print jobs." He looked so confused and asked me to explain what I meant. So I told him our manager's rule. He got really quiet and said he'd have to review this. The next day, my manager sent an email saying that printing rule was something she was misinformed on and would be abolished immediately. Me, being the little shit disturber I am, hit reply all and asked what would happen to the already accumulated funds. Someone else said we should have a nice, healthy fund for a pizza lunch, and everyone agreed. Next day, I hear my manager ordering 10 pizzas for lunch. Also used her own personal credit card to pay for it all. Do I think she was pocketing the printing money all along? Absolutely. But it was fun making her sweat and then having to spend nearly $300 the next day to make up for it.
Am I in the wrong for saying that my wife will have to quit her job if we get booted from another daycare? My wife and I have a 3-year-old daughter, Alexis. Both of us work and Alexis has attended daycare since she was 1. In the 2 years since, we've been asked to leave 2 programs because my wife is a micromanager. I admit both of us went into the first program not really understanding daycare. I quickly learned that they can't provide personalized care, and after learning from her teachers, I reset my expectations. My wife, however, has a lot of anxiety and worries about our daughter. She hates when she gets even a little upset. She's in therapy and is working on it. During the first program, my wife would constantly watch live feed and call the daycare multiple times a day. We had several talks about it and the school talked to us twice. My wife ended up screaming at one of the teachers and then the director. We were terminated immediately. Second daycare was a little better because my wife began therapy, but my wife was still so nervous and had a complaint every single day. These were not important things. Small things like she saw another child took a toy away from Alexis and she would cry. The teacher would give the toy back to Alexis, but my wife didn't understand why the other child wasn't being punished for it. This daycare didn't kick us out, but did eventually suggest that this may not be the best program for us. My wife and I decided to pull Alexis out. My wife because of her anxiety, myself because I knew my wife had burned bridges and was becoming one of those moms. We chose a smaller home daycare this time as we couldn't afford another center. The woman who owns it is very nice but also firm. She stands by her boundaries and won't let my wife break any rules, whereas the centers were definitely more accommodating. My wife would take any inch she got. This time, she doesn't get that opportunity. I thought all was well as the owner only speaks to my wife for the most part. Then, I get put in a group text saying that my wife was bombarding the owner with texts every single day, despite the owner saying that she'll text her at lunch when things are settled. She said at this point, she'll only respond at specific times of the day and not looking at the rest. The owner then sent several pages of contract with passages highlighted, reminding us of certain policies that my wife had violated. I was pissed. When Alexis went to bed that night, my wife and I talked. I said that this was our last option for daycare. The other centers are too expensive and this was the only home daycare in the area that we like. A nanny is not in our budget. My wife made a million excuses, including that it's not her fault that she's anxious. I said if we were asked to leave this program too, my wife would be the one quitting her job to watch Alexis, not me. This upset my wife. I pointed out that I've spoken to her kindly about this plenty of times. I encouraged her to keep up her therapy, but she can't keep getting us kicked out of programs. My wife is now not speaking to me.
Am I wrong for being a bridesmaid to a close friend at her wedding even though my girlfriend was asked not to come? A very close friend of mine since college got married recently, and she and I have been friends since freshman year of college. Since we work in the same field in the same city, we've remained pretty close, and let's just call her Tina. I started dating my girlfriend Alex a year and a half ago, and let's just say they do not get along. I can't pinpoint exactly why they don't. Alex always says that she doesn't like Tina, and Tina typically is just responding to Alex's energy. While I don't try to get them to be besties, I do want them to get along because they both are important to me. So when Tina got engaged and told me she wanted me to be in her wedding, which I was so excited to do, it was difficult. Tina told me she wasn't fully comfortable with Alex coming, which does make sense because they don't like each other. However, I personally didn't feel like I had a dog in this fight. Their beef is theirs and not mine. Am I wrong for being a bridesmaid to a close friend at her wedding even though my girlfriend was asked not to come? Their beef is theirs, not mine, so I don't see why I should be limited in my relationships with either of them. I told Alex I wanted to go and she was apprehensive. She said that if Tina didn't want her to go, she didn't think I should go. I said I didn't think it was fair for her to say that, and this was a huge event for Tina. She wants me there. And for that reason, because she is also important to me, I want to be there. I also mentioned that Alex does have some friends that I don't get along with, but I never stop her from seeing them. Alex eventually relented and said she doesn't care if I go or not. Well, months go by and the wedding finally happens and Tina's wedding comes up. At this point, it's too late for me to just quit last minute, and Alex says she doesn't want me to go. This is like a week out of the wedding, and I told her I couldn't flake out last minute. I went to the wedding and had fun, but now Alex is mad. Am I wrong for ditching my assigned bridesmaid at a wedding for one that is younger and a different race as me? One of my good buddies from college, Tom, was getting married to his wife, Liz. He asked me to be one of his groomsmen. I was honored as I hadn't seen him in a while because I do live across the country. When I arrived to a city, I was assigned a bridesmaid called Kelly. Now, Kelly is a lovely woman, however, I think we were only assigned because we're both black. Liz starts telling me that we're both single and perfect for one another, but there was nothing else to indicate that. I should also add as well that Liz had a lot more bridesmaids than Tom had groomsmen. Well, the first night, the entire wedding party went out and it became clear that Kelly did want to hook up. I wasn't into her, so I kindly turned her down. But then she starts interrogating me as to why, and I tried to give her a generic answer, but then she starts listing off reasons why we're perfect. I end up saying I don't do the whole short-term type thing, and we both live in different states, so there's no future. Am I wrong for ditching my assigned bridesmaid at the wedding for one that's younger and a different race as me? She cools off and tells me she respects me more for that, and I'm the type of guy she's looking for. Now, one of the unmatched bridesmaids, let's call her Jen, starts messaging me privately and we hit it off. So the next day, the wedding ceremony goes well, we have the reception, and me and Kelly do the entrance, then dance for a bit. Then I go to the bar and Jen and I start to dance, and at this point, Kelly is giving me dirty looks. All is going well until I'm at the bar and Kelly and Liz confront me, started saying that me dancing with Jen is inappropriate. I'm 32 and she's 24, about to be 25, and that's when I say we're just friends. Then Kelly starts saying I must have a fetish for white women, and at this point I realize there's no logical argument. So I tell them I enjoy the wedding, but I need to go to bed early for my flight the next day, so I left. Then Jen left 15 minutes later and we both got kicked out of the chat. Am I wrong for telling my wife she's ridiculous for complaining that I need a new job because I don't make enough money to support our family? My wife has been telling me for multiple years to get a job that actually pays a living wage. My current job pays me $100,000 per year. I have 4 kids and we are late on paying bills almost every month. So today when my daughter got a huge glass of milk, I asked her not to drink the milk because 1, it's expensive, and for 2, we need it for the meals we have ingredients for. But as a result, my wife got mad and told me she can drink as much milk as she likes. And it's ridiculous that I still work at the same place that can't support a family of 4. I yelled back and told her the only problem we actually have is how much she spends on selfish garbage. and that she has no self-control and just buys whatever she wants, and that it's her that's not supporting the family and her that doesn't have a job. Her response is that she will never respect me because I don't do what needs to be done.